friends, welcome back to Canadian Cutting Edge. So glad that you made it. Today we're looking at the Miguron MOYARL MGR 806, and then whatever letter for whatever color code it is. That's the knife we're looking at today. We've got a liner lock knife, 14C28N, G10 handle scales, under 50 bucks. Unless you go to White Mountain Knives, then you use coupon code CCE. That's 45 bucks, just under 45 bucks for this knife US. And I think you might be interested in it. I like it. How much do I like it? Come on to the tabletop with me and we'll find out together. Well, I already know. I'll let you know. Just keep watching. That's the name of the game. And then leave a comment. That really helps a lot too. Maybe subscribe. So here she is. Yeah. This is clearly a liner lock version, as you probably saw in the unboxing and stuff if you watched that. I did find out Miguron has a crossbar lock, access lock, whatever you want to call it, crossbar lock version as well on their website, MiguronKnives.com. I'll leave a link for it down below to make it easy for you to get there. I got mine at White Mountain Knives, though. White Mountain Knives has, I think, 6 different colors of this in the liner lock only. I think the white one is sold out at the moment. Miguron knives are hard to find. Most stores, a lot of stores, probably most stores, don't carry Miguron knives. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to find it where you live. But if you're in the US, you'll be able to find it without too much challenge at all. I don't know of any store in Canada that has this in stock in Canada. I got mine, like I said, through White Mountain Knives, and had it sent to me via a friend in Nebraska. So that's how I get my knives shipped to me. I'm not going to talk more about that now. I've got another video about that if you want to watch that. Anyhow, we got a drop point blade made out of 14C28N. This is a black PVD coating on here, and it's held up very well during my testing. I didn't do an extreme amount of testing on this, but I did pretty close to my usual amount of testing on this, and you know, the coating's held up just fine. You can also get it with a satin flat and then a gray stonewash finish on the main bevel, or you can get it in a sandblasted finish, which I tend not to like. But I guess that's personal reasons. If one of the gray stonewash versions was available when I wanted this knife, I would have got that one. But I ended up getting this PVD coated white version. You've got, what, a gray, a tan. I'm not sure of all the colors. I'll have posted a few of the colors. We've got a deployment on this thing with a hole, a teardrop shaped hole in there, and it works very well. You can do the finger flip from underneath, no problem. You can do the thumb roll if you want to, and you can use whatever finger you want to flip it with, I guess. Let me see. There you go. I flipped it with my ring finger there. I'm not into trickery, like using tricks to deploy knives. I'm not that much of a fidgeting guy anymore, and that's because of the arthritis in my hands. You might be able to see a bunch of red dots in there. I just got a bunch of injections done in my thumb yesterday, and it's a little extra sore today, but this knife is a little easier than some knives because I'm not really using my thumb that awful much. Right or left-handed, it works just fine. We've got a right and left pocket clip, by the way, so it is pretty ambidextrous. But back to the blade. Like I said, drop point, very high flat grind, although it comes back here a little bit. The midpoint of the blade is pretty much where you get the flat spot. I don't know, are you going to call this a full flat grind? Maybe I'll call it a full flat grind. I'm not sure. In any case, it comes down to a fairly thin edge, not super thin, but a fairly thin edge. I'll give the exact measurements later on. We've got a good size forward choil. That's what I'm really happy about that. It's not too small. I can get my finger in there and there's a nice safety margin. And my hands are just barely into the extra large range. And I like that we've got lots of extra room. I like that we've got the full width of the handle across part of it here, and that makes it very comfortable in hand. Happy with that. So that's good. Badging, the only badging on the blade itself is right there, the 14C28N. Other than that, nothing else. And the only other place there's some badging is on the pin here. On the pivot pin, there's their logo for Miguron. I'll tear it apart later on, show you the ball bearings and everything. We've got G10 on the handle scales. They're flat slab G10, rounded edges all over. Very comfortable in hand. I'm very happy with how rounded those edges are. And we've got, like I said, holes here for the pocket clip on the other side. We've got flat T8 screws. Very happy with that. And they're not marred up at all. This knife's been taken apart and put back together at least once. And none of the screws show any excessive wear. That's a T8 over here with a bit of a pivot. Is that a pivot collar there? I forget. Let me pull out my T8 driver. Yeah, there's a pivot collar on this side, and there's not on that side. So there's that. I will do the teardown. Even the pocket clip screws are T8s, but not a lot of play in there, and not a lot of play in these, so that's a good thing. Very happy with that. We got some skeletonized in the liners. We've got a back spacer made out of G10, and if you noticed, there's no lanyard hole. There's no lanyard option, so some people are going to call that a con. I almost never use lanyards on my knives, although I know people that need them all the time or use them all the time. So if you need a lanyard, you're going to have to tie it off your pocket clip if you want this knife. Pocket clip is, you know, a little piece of billet. I don't know what material. I didn't look it up. I don't think it said. Anyhow, it's a very nicely shaped pocket clip, and it functions very well. Let's do a little demonstration. It slides over. It's got that nice ramp, holds on really well. Of course, it sticks out of your pocket a fair ways there. If you want a deep carry clip, well, this thing doesn't come with a deep carry clip. So that's up to you if you like that or not. And, you know, I don't mind it. I don't mind it the way it is. Anyhow, there's all that. How about the action on this thing? The action's pretty good. There's a little bit of noise. I don't know if you've heard some squeaks. It squeaks sometimes. They didn't really lubricate it all that well. I'll lubricate it when I've taken it apart. But lockup is very good on this knife. There's lots of room for it to wear across, and yet it's fully engaged. No blade play, side to side, up and down. So I like that. You don't need an awful lot of pressure to disengage the lock. And the detent's quite good. And I think most of the noise is the detent sliding on the side of this PVD coated blade. Yeah, but the detent is, I don't know if you could hear it there. I just did it close to my microphone there. Yeah, I'll lubricate that up. Hopefully that'll go away. And yeah, it's quite nice. I'm quite happy with it. The alignment, right down the middle, just like it should be. No jimping. I don't know if you noticed that. I didn't talk about it yet. So if you like jimping on the spine of your blades, like I do, then it's something you might miss a little bit. The edge here is chamfered ever so slightly, so there's no sharp edges anywhere except for here. And even then, they didn't sharpen it all that well, but I'll talk about that when I do the measurements after I've taken this thing apart. So let me take it apart and show you how it's constructed. This is not an instructional video on how to do a teardown, so I didn't show you that. It just eats up a lot of time. See these screws? They are very nice indeed. And even the pivot screw is quite nice. We've got nylon cage here, and what we've got 4, 8, 10 ball bearings in these nylon cages, and they're ceramic ball bearings, so quite nice. And yeah, I don't see any, there's certainly not extra lubrication in there, and I think that's part of the reason why there's that noises. Those noises are there. It's pretty dry in there, so I'm going to lubricate that up. Skeletonizing. And skeletonizing on this side. Oh, I didn't show the balance point. I'll do that just before I do the measurements. And let me see if I can get this back spacer to come loose. Don't think it wants to come loose. What I'm doing here is I want to take the back spacer off to see if the pins are of the type so that you can use it without a back spacer or not. these pins, you can get them out, but the shoulders aren't centered. The one side's got a deep shoulder, the other side's got a shallower shoulder, so it's not going to be quite centered. But as long as it's the right size, it could work. Yeah, it should work. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see. I know this video might be a little longer because of this, but I'm going to see if I can put it together without the, well, that side doesn't want to screw in quite right. Maybe it's just me. I'm going to see if I can put the knife together without the back spacer, because I know some people just don't like back spacers. Ow! My thumb. And let's take that back out. There we go. Take the screw out. And we're going to give it a try. So, yeah. I'm going to dry off the lubrication here and here. And I'll add some lubrication to the ball bearings. I use Gunny Glide. I'm just very, very happy with this. I've used pretty much every oil that's out there on the market, and this stuff's just phenomenal. And I'm not saying, I'm saying that because it's true. That's my actual opinion. So yeah, I'll see you back in a second, and if there's a space back here, then I didn't have to use that. Well, clearly, you can put it together without the back spacer. You've got sort of that brass, gold, if you will, colored look in there. And it doesn't look perfect. The spacer, it looks like there's a tiny shoulder there that's still exposed, if you can get the light just right. It's not a great fit. You can paint it black, paint those blacks separately. Or, you got just a tiny little bit of gold colored, well, brass bling on there. And, oh, I didn't wipe the oil off. I got a little bit of oil on my fingers when I was assembling it. Well, most of it's off. But, she's drop shutty now. I don't go for drop shutty. I'm not looking for that on a knife. But, when you get really smooth action, that's kind of nice. And, yeah, it just needed lubrication, some good lubrication. And, then she's working great. By the way, the balance point, like I promised you, is right there. Now, I would like it to be a little bit further forward. They would have had to do a little bit more skeletonizing than they did, and there's not an awful lot of room more to do that. So, it's not a big deal, but there you go. Next, I'll put that to the side and I'll reassemble it factory style after I've finished the video. But for now, we're going to go over all the measurements. First, the weight of this knife. It is 113 grams, 3.99 ounces, so just below that magical 4-ounce mark. So that's attractive to some people. Sharpening on this thing, not great. Pretty good though, around 200 best. So it's not as sharp as average, and a big part of that is the grind angles. I'll mention that in a few seconds. Hold on, we're going to go for a ride. Grind angle length, 73.1 millimeters, 2.88 inches. Blade length, tip to the G10, 81.3 millimeters, 3.2 inches. The thickness of the blade stock, 3.09 millimeters, 0.1215 inches. The blade depth this way, it's biggest right about where my index fingers are, 29.6 millimeters, 1.16 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? So just where the PVD coating starts at the edge. 0.44 millimeters, 17.5 thousandths of an inch thin, so I like that. I like that quite a lot. Still thick enough to be strong, thin enough to be super slicey. If the grind angles were better, this side's got an average grind angle of 23.4 degrees. This side's got 23.7 degrees. That means, 47 degrees is trying to get through stuff. And for ODYSEE knife with modern steel like 14C28N, I'd rather go around 18 degrees per side. That's just what I would prefer. So the old school 20 degrees per side is still a total of 7 degrees less than this thing was sharpened to. Now, I'm just going to interject for a second. If you buy one of these knives, you're not going to get the same grind angle I got. The grind angles are done by hand by several different knife sharpeners. So you might get something pretty close to this. You might get something very different. So please learn how to sharpen knives, because you can do a better job sharpening because you can take your time. In a factory, they're trying to push these out as quickly as they can, especially a factory that's mass producing low-cost knives. So if you can, learn how to sharpen well, and then this knife will be just stunning. Right now, it cut fairly well, cut and sliced fairly well. It's not really a piercing knife, although you can get a fair bit of piercing done with it. Grind angles, I didn't finish that, did I? Yikes. Started at 23.5, ended at 23.3, so that's the 23.4. This one started at 23.5 as well, but it ended at 23.9, so 0.4 degrees of change, so at least the sharpener was pretty consistent. Handle length, 110.6 millimeters, 4.35 inches. The grip area across the handle material is about 95 millimeters, about 3.8 inches. If you include the forward choil here, you've got more like 115 millimeters, 4.5 inches. Now that's sort of a rounded number because, you know, we got a rounded edge here, so where do you exactly draw the line for that? The thickness of the handle scales on the G10 surface, 13.4 millimeters, that's 5.53 inches. So just over half an inch. So some people will want it thinner. Other people like it like this. It fits really well with my hands, that's for sure. The handle depth, the widest point in your grip is right here, 23.6 millimeters, 0.929 of an inch. And when it's closed, the widest point's right there, 32.4 millimeters, 1.27 inches. And the total length of this knife, I got plastic on the screen, distractions, 192 millimeters, 7.56 inches. So pretty good proportions. Almost 3.2. They call it a 3.5 inch blade, and it's only 3.2. So they're more than a quarter of an inch off. And that's one of the reasons why I do my own measurements in-house, because you can't really trust many specs that you find online on retail stores. In this case, even on the manufacturer's store. It's not a 3.5 inch knife. It's 3.2 inches. You've got just about 3 inches of cutting edge. And there you go. What's the price of this thing? Most stores, you're going to find it, most stores that I looked at, $49.96. You can save 10% at White Mountain Knives with code CCE. That makes it just under $45 US. Like I said, you can't get this in Canada anyway, so I'm not going to do the Canadian prices. Miguron website has it for $49.95 as well. I mean, Amazon USA has it for $49.95, and the Miguron website, I think it's $56. Anyhow, I'll leave the links down below for Amazon. That's a referral link, an affiliate link. At White Mountain Knives, I don't get any kickback at all, but you get 10% off for coupon code CCE, and there's also the Miguron link, so hopefully you can find it wherever you want it. What's the summary? What's my feelings about this knife? I like it. I like it quite a lot. I'm especially fond that they made the forward choil big enough to easily use very safely. Your finger can get on there and not get close to that cutting edge. Blade shape is very useful. Thin edge, really nice belly, good budget steel. And the handle scales are comfortable and the handle shape is comfortable. You've got a right and left pocket clip, although it's not deep carry. I like the T8 screws. And you can, if you want to, take out the backspacer. Some people just don't like backspacers. So there you go. And the coating on this PVD and the coating on the screws has held up very well to being taken apart and reassembled now at least twice. And I'll have to do it at least one more time to put this back in. So yeah, the coating's holding up very well. And once you lubricate it, the action gets even better than it was. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. By the way, if you want to buy this, you can get this at Gritomatic. There's also a Canadian link, Canadian Knife Company's link. I'll leave that link down below if you want to buy this, because it's available in Canada. And you can get it Gritomatic, or you can get it other stores. A lot of stores have it these days. Huge shout out and thank you to my financial supporters, those who give me a couple bucks every month, $2, $3, whatever it is. Some of you give $5, and some give even more. So I really, really appreciate that an awful lot. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb, especially when it's sore like this one. Bye for now.